and welcome to the Service Operations Podcast. I am your host, 𝗖𝘂𝘀𝘁𝗺𝗁. Our guests are from different industries and functions. They will share their experience, strategies, and the changing landscape to help you take the service operations of your business to the next level. Hi Ganga, nice to have you here for this conversation. You're one of our first guests from the startup ecosystem. So we look forward to, listening to you. Tell us something about your journey from the bank to what you're doing today.
Okay. At the outset, I think I'm so excited talking to you after ages, I would say.
Yeah.
And, coming from the same background, working with one of the best banks, we've learned and done so much. So it's great to reconnect with some of our old friends. So
Yes.
Thanks so much. Yeah. So, the banking journey, was as exciting as it could be for all of us. And I think post 2010, decided to take a break and, look at some new avenues and, a new path in that sense, because that's what is something we we inculcated as a DNA, while we were serving in the bank. So that's how I embarked. And I always had a flair to teaching and, taking sessions and training. So academia in that sense excited me, but I had no clue about what academia was because we were hardcore bankers. And I think I was a little lucky, I would say, and also spotted some good opportunities. Staying in a place like Mumbai, you do have access and network. So
Yes.
that kind of helped me kickstart somewhere. And as I was trying to find my feet in terms of what I could do, tried out, tested, tried, a lot of piloting and pivoting happened. And finally, I realized, education or any kind of, support or coaching for entrepreneurs was my sweet spot. And
Okay.
and coincidentally, or it was something which was really at the right time, at the right place, if you could say. Especially 2010, 11, the startup was not so so much in the lingo as we hear today. In the academia more so. So I had the opportunity to be part of a lot of new initiatives various institutes kind of gave me. And I was fortunately one of the faculty member who was willing to take a try because, nothing to lose. Just give it a try. Yeah. So it's only game.
Yeah, and you were one among the early, you spotted it early.
Yeah. So it's a combination of so many factors, and that's what we learned in the bank, right? So, and I mean, those skills really took me, and it's still taking me a long way. So, entrepreneur community and being part of the ecosystem was something that excited me the most. So, in the academia, we have aspiring entrepreneurs, so to say. They're not full-fledged entrepreneurs. So, I had an opportunity to work with some bright minds. And then move to the best B school in India, 𝗵𝗂𝘀 Institute of Management and Research, where I got an opportunity to really work, not just pure academia, but they wanted somebody to roll out programs to, make, to reach out to the entrepreneur community. So in the banking lingo, we would say SME community. So in the bank, I was part of an SME business. So there again, I dealt with entrepreneurs. In the academia, I was fortunate, so I continued dealing with entrepreneurs. And that's how my journey commenced. Worked with first-generation entrepreneurs, next-generation entrepreneurs, taught them, coached them. I learned a lot because what you, kind of are exposed to as a banker, and whereas when you're with them, helping them build their skills, you have a larger responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So I became a student for life.
You are teaching entrepreneurs or you're helping them acquire the skills to set up. Yeah. Give us an idea about how does this start?
Yeah. So I think that's a very good question in the current context, because unlike what it was maybe when you and me graduated, where traditionally entrepreneur or doing business was more, kind of accepted if you come from a business community, your parents, your father, or you have some legacy to take over, right? I know from there we have traveled a long way, because now so gone are the days where people were taking a post-professional graduation or a engineering or a doctor or any professional degree or any degree for that matter. For a corporate job, and it's like now we're seeing a big trend where it's more first generation entrepreneurs, like you're coming from a service class. So what does that really mean is that the whole system has become very conducive, and it's like an enabling environment which has got created over a period of time. So it's very interesting to see that even corporates have started looking at this in a big way, where they're looking at encouraging employees to also look at an entrepreneurial journey. I'm not talking of entrepreneurial, which requires you to do well in your job, but we're also seeing corporates. So that there's a complete, change and shift in that sense. So if you are a student, your academia supports you. If you're in a research institute, the research institute supports you. If you're in a corporate, the corporate supports you. So wherever you are, if you're in a school, if you're in a high school, you have a support there. Yeah. So I think there's no place left where, it's just that you need to make up your mind and the bug has to bite you.
You are setting up something to solve a problem. So when you say solve a problem, means there is some customer. There has to be a buyer. Okay. So, so now my area is the customer. So I will ask you questions around that. Yeah. So now, So now when somebody wants to set up something, there are so many success stories, and the success stories are so large. So people don't really look at what doesn't succeed, but they look at what succeeds, and it's like a lot of money and a lot of fame and things like that, right? So just tell me, what is the first point of connect?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think that's the oxygen to this whole state, ecosystem in that sense, right?
Okay.
So I largely support technology startups, right? So I come from, I engage deeply with technology business incubators at IIT Bombay, which is called Society for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And likewise, there are a few TBIs, technology business incubators, and other engineering colleges. But this is this is something which I've embarked on, and I'm moving through this. But this experience is not going to be any different from other types of startups from other sectors. So, I'm kind of just bringing that context. And so if you see typically, companies, so you talked about success stories and, what is being presented. And certainly, like you rightly said, it's not an overnight success there. There have been days and nights, and some of the founders where, we work very closely at a very early stage. The role of a mentor, people like us, it's not just about dealing with the business, but it's about dealing with the emotions and the highs and lows, because it's a very, we call it a VUCA world, right? It's a very unpredictable, you really don't know where you are entering in, and largely because if you see the journey of a startup or, a founder or an innovator, it's because he or she is passionate about that product or that solution. And he or she has spent years and days and hours and nights and moons, trying to get that solution. So he or she is passionate, like he sleeps, walks, everything.
Yes.
Things, everything. So you're talking of a person with that mindset. So when the innovator is like almost there in terms of, having the solution patented or kind of just found the right, a position or a timing where he or she says that, now I think it's worth a try. Then they are into a different, they're put into a different world. They're exposed to, till then they've been in their labs with some known communities and faculties and researchers. Suddenly you will have to deal with 100 different people. Starting from your office staff and whatever you call it, right? So I think, this journey, it gets them to transfer from inward looking to an outward looking journey. I mean, that's that. So the beauty of this whole journey of a startup or an innovator to, I call it a transition of innovator to an entrepreneur to a business leader, is a journey of inward to outward looking. And there's a huge element of empathy, which plays a very critical role. So coming to your point of customer, I mean, so that's the first step, because today, a startup, when we engage with our startups and they come and say that we have the right solution, it's patented, etc., the first question we ask them, like you asked, is there somebody who's going to buy it? Or is there somebody who's willing to give it a try? Is there somebody who's willing to put some resources on the table? Right. So at that point of time, it hits them hard saying that, it hits them hard saying that it's not just a ready thing that, suppose you're from the best institute and while you might have the entry because you come from a premier institute. So you have an entry to engage with the customer. But after that, the customer is going to look at, whether there's value for the money they're putting on the table. Right.
So the customer king.
Yeah, customers king. So what we are trying to encourage in a big way, and I think the whole startup ecosystem is trying to, drive towards this, engage or build up this empathy or customer-centric approach right from the time you're in the lab.
Okay.
Yeah, taking a decision of meeting the customer and trying to talk with the customer to see if the solution will work or etc. After that, it's almost at the end stage. Engage at an early stage.
Actually, I had a guest who works on user experience and design, and this is exactly what she said. That and of course she was talking about design, but she said that be with the people. Somehow you cannot be sitting in your office and thinking that, I know everything, or talk to just 5 or 10 people and think that you know everything. Yes. Right.
So it's a continuous journey. It's a continuous journey. And there are programs where we call this activity as getting out of the building. It's like, that's the phrase which is given. So it's an empathy which they have to develop. And there's a huge mindset change one has to go through. So that's the direction now we see.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there is an idea, then the idea gets some shape, so it becomes the product. Yeah, though the product is focused on with the end in mind that the customer will find a solution, but it is not directly interacting with the customer, as you said, till decide that, okay, now this is going to be the business.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're trying to say is you really need to be sure that the customer is facing the problem you're trying to solve. So if you look at a problem also, there are different types of a problem, different buckets. We say a nice to have and a must have. Yeah. So, the ability to really develop or match, we call it a problem solution fit. Ability to have the right problem solution fit is so critical for these innovators, because if there is a problem which is a nice to have category, that can wait, right? So but if we have to identify the problem of a customer or develop a solution at a very early stage where it happens to be a must have category for the customer, I think then it's worth the next journey.
So can you give us some example of, some product that got created to get an idea of where the customer is when this is happening?
See, there are many examples which come to my mind. So a lot, whatever I have seen are, examples relating to medical equipment, because we've seen healthcare domain, do considerably well. Important. Yeah, and ever since the COVID happened, you saw the surge in the health tech companies.
And a complete change in the customer mindset also.
Right. So somewhere we also became open to technology as a means to deal with the space. So I can just think of just one example which just comes to my mind. So I was mentoring a startup which was actually developing an equipment for the physiotherapists. So today, if you look at physiotherapy, it's a very big space, and they were like developing. They were, I think, out of college probably a few years back, and they developed the project, and they realized that robotics at that point of time, robotics was something which was a big wave, and they kind of realized that this is a sweet spot they could work on, add a bunch of gamification to the product and solution. And when they actually try to understand the physiotherapy community side of the issues, they realize that one of the big challenge physiotherapists generally face is compliance. I mean, patients go after a point, they don't complete the entire process. And so there are various reasons, but this was one of the challenge. And so the assumption here was probably, patients were not sufficiently motivated to really continue and stuff like that. So therefore, they kind of really punted, saying that, great, so let's have a gamification, let's bring an element of robotics, etc., etc. And they really developed the first prototype. They got some funding support. So when they actually went and engaged with certain physiotherapists, they really loved the concept, because that's something very different. Even for an individual, it would appeal, where you have some gamifications, etc. I'm talking of this a few years back, because now it's a little common. But at that point of time, they all said, great thing. But then, the question is, will the physiotherapist buy that equipment? Then the question of, why do I need it? Then the question of, what does the physiotherapist end user need? Unless the end user like you and me pay for it, only then the physiotherapist is going to afford. So that's when it just kind of hit them, saying, boss, there's something more to know, right? So they went back to the drawing board. And of course, then again went through the entire insighting. They spoke to about 100 physiotherapists, finding out what works, what doesn't work. And they changed the whole concept, while the fundamental product remains, but the benefit was positioned differently.
Very interesting. It's like chicken and egg, you make the product, then you find the customer. Sometimes, the customer wants something, but that's very rare that in advance, so much. Because I think if they focus on the customer, then they might just end up getting incremental products. But if they want to do something completely different, then of course, it's like more the idea first.
Yes, yes. So today, you talked about startups doing very well. You have unicorns in the market. IPOs are being talked of. If you look at all of those startups and many more in the anvil, which is not known in the public, they all have done disruptive technology and something's very different. And of course, because today customers like you and me have plethora of opportunities. Too many, right? We are spoiled for choices at times, right? So how do you really find that space? And that's the excitement.
Yeah. That's interesting. So now just tell me if there is, through your journey, you have finished the first two stages. So you had the idea and then decided that, okay, this idea will now go out to the world. Now let's talk about any one idea which was really good and, it went to the market. And then suddenly there was a great demand for it. So is there, then what happens? Because again, then there is a customer. And now you have too many customers and, that's when the service, issues start coming up. Yeah, that's my area.
I think the customer service element happens right from the word go. It's not only when they reach at scale, because this example which I shared with you also, as I speak today, they have managed to sell about 50-30 pieces. So now the challenge is how to service them. Okay. The challenge is, do you have an SOP for it? Do you have the right staff for it? Because see, finally, as what happens is, as startup, it's the founder's passion which one invests in. Right? So even the customer looks at you and believes in you and engages with you. But suddenly, once you've sold a product solution and there's a second or third person talking, he or she is not going to be very comfortable, right? And every solution will have certain teething problem in terms of settling, getting the right space, maybe, some fluctuation in the electricity, that something is not working, or some printer connections happening. So there would be teething problems. And fortunately or unfortunately, everybody wants the same face to come and address, right? So it's right from the word go. If it's not at scale, certainly. So again, that's a mindset issue, right? So we have to actually educate or kind of sensitize these founders, saying, hey, while it's great that you found your customers, the first, we call them early adopters, it's extremely important also now to develop a team. Now, I'm just taking the concept of customer service even to the team. Because I would say, because you getting a team along with you, because they're also a set of internal customers for you, right? How do you actually, kind of train them, delegate them, empower them, and get them to see them perform, do their duties as much as you would have want them to do with the customer, so that end customer doesn't go. So I think it's right from the word go. This empathy factor, being sensitive about the customer in terms of what they need, the service orientation.
Yeah, because that's a little dirty job. If you might just say, see, it's one thing to sell. Selling is very glamorous, I mean, it's like you're putting your best foot forward and you're selling something, right? And the servicing is like, oh my God, now there is a problem and now I need to solve it, because then there's this attraction. And I think initially even the teams are much smaller, so there isn't much of specialization in a way.
Yeah. So the founder here has a unique challenge. The innovators have a unique challenge of having to get so many things on track, in a small period of time. So that's where the incubators play a very critical role. So it's like a baby in the incubation for some period of time. So these startups in the startup ecosystem, incubator has a very critical role where we actually help them kind of simulate them through this whole journey for the 3 to 5 year period. So that when these, dilemmas set in, they have somebody to talk to and, get some, I would not say jugaad, but, some quick fix or, some long-term, strategies to put in place, orientation, mentor, all of that comes into play. So this is something which is a founder has to quickly, come up the learning curve and get it implemented.
Yeah. And learn also. And initially, there is this, I think it happens everywhere. Initially, everyone feels that they can do it best. And, then there is a little less delegation and a little less process setting. And then,
Yes. So actually, the process setting is something which is, again, another important aspect because, again, it's important, in the orientation for the first 3 years, 5 years, as they're kind of, taking step-by-step approach. It's important to really understand that the startup is different from them. Somewhere they kind of identify startup as them, right? So we have to kind of tell them, ki boss, they're different. Okay, you are the founder, you are the boss. But it has in the eyes of law also, it has a individual entity in itself, right? So therefore, it is important that you have your systems and process in place. So everywhere, this one person can't be. Even for the process of customer service, as you rightly said, like in terms of like when, there is a call from the customer, how it has to be dealt, what queries to ask, and it's so many steps, right? You might do it as a founder because you've been there, done that. But tomorrow, if you're going to appoint somebody to do it, he or she has to understand and live up to the matrices and expectations. And also, when we see startups go to the growth stage, we encourage them to say, start doing customer survey. Ensure that as part of your performance KRA matrix, like how we used to have in the corporates. And that's something which we are actually getting these founders to start thinking, not at a very early stage, but at least when they've reached a decent number. As part of, so the process orientation is important, documentation, process, the governance. So there, the accountability, responsibility factor comes in. This is like a culture thing, which I'm talking about, but definitely from a customer-centric point of view. That's also something is constantly educated and.
So mentors have a big role to play, the incubators and mentors, because that's where the what you call it, nurturing of what will become something big happens.
Sure. Yeah. So that's changing. Yeah. And like the startup ecosystem is evolved. I think I think most of us, if you talk to anybody in the startup ecosystem, be it an investor or a banker or a regulator or a policymaker, all of them would unanimously agree that we are in a golden period, right?
Yeah.
So when we say we are in a golden period, each of these stakeholders are able to meet their objectives through the startup ecosystem. That is the beauty, right? So your regulators have certain objectives, investors have certain objectives. I'm not even talking of customers. I'm talking of the rest of the key stakeholders, right? So when there is a startup really able to solve a customer's problem, like what we just explained, is able to see a big market, there are so many stakeholders who are just opening their arms to them. So the beauty is not mentors. The beauty is that all these stakeholders have opened channels, given their expertise. It's like it is a culture of collaboration which happens in the startup ecosystem. And there we are seeing corporates. And there we are seeing corporates in a big way.
Okay. That's quite interesting. So basically what you're saying is there is a customer everywhere, right? From the thought to the making of the product as well as later. But yes, the preparation for, when sudden that exponential growth happens, that is the bigger one. So now, among the various products or, startups that you would have seen, some will be pure technology startups and some will be, hybrid model.
Like I told you, startups today we call them technology startups, right? So, but somewhere I think now technology startups also as a nomenclature is not really going to, be there for long, because technology is there almost everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So now we are clearly seeing that, if you look at a startup founding team, we really see the founders having these unique skills. I mean, there is a CTO kind of a profile who necessarily has to be there. And as incubators, we prefer, we encourage them to have this kind of a combination. Like we said that one person can't do everything, so you need to have a combination of both. And very essentially, we look at somebody with business and commercial sense of things, and obviously the product domain knowledge. So when you look at a health tech company, right? So we do find founders who are doctors and who come from that science, but we also have technology, profiled founders joining in them. And we also have people who've been there, done that, say in a pharma industry, also being part of that in the sales combination. So I think today I would say technology is everywhere. And I think if they have developed something which is the need of the hour, which is solving a big problem for the customer at large, and I think India is a big market. So if they're able to do it here, I think the global markets are also.
So if I just go a little back, so many times we used to have engineers who used to set up business because they were good engineers and they had these products, right? But engineers may not be good businessmen. So I'm liking this idea, and what you're saying is that this combination of 2-3 people, maybe somebody who understands business, someone who understands. See, like there is this other piece also, organizing money, and it's not just the funding. It is even after you have to run the show, right? So you need to understand accounts, you need to understand banking, and all the regulations. Yeah, so I think groups and so collaboration is of course one thing, but also covering up for each other in a way that the whole piece has all the knowledge that is required.
Yes. So absolutely. So because it's an era of complementary skills, right?
Yeah.
So and the beauty is today we have very wonderful organizations which are voluntary based organizations helping these techno innovators get co-founders. So they have co-founder labs. Yeah, so there are many organizations, starting from the 𝗨 of the world. There are regional specifics, geography specific, sector specific. You can ask for it, you get it. So even if you do realize that, because the next challenge we see with these innovators is how do you make the team? Because it's like a relationship, right? Where you have to get along and work together, because when you're in this journey, there are times you agree, disagree, and how do you really move on? Yeah. So that's also another aspect which they really need to work on themselves first, and then get the right match. So that's also another activity which a lot of organizations do help. So like I told you, there's a place for everything in this startup ecosystem in India. There are wonderful organizations and agencies working on it, starting from the policy makers, I would say, from maybe the central or the state government, and I would say corporates, investors. They are doing some big, and we see banks coming in a big way, corporates. So they've all kind of worked together.
Oh, that's interesting. So now, so far, you've been, we've been talking on the positive side. Of course, everything is like, so good. So there's a overall ecosystem that has got built up, right? Now, what are the one or two challenges that you think? Now, this is like really going in great speed and, in the right direction. What are the one or two challenges that you see coming, maybe, not immediately, but a little ahead, as far as the number of startups is concerned? Is it going to reach a kind of, saturation point?
Yeah. I think we have seen industries move up and down, right?
Okay.
So we have seen that in our earlier organizations. In the normal course. So that's not going to be any different. But the way we are poised today, and this is not something which I'm sharing it because of my thought and experience, but it's a collective thought from the startup ecosystem. Because if you see, policy changes have happened, the Startup India movement, the Atmanirbhar, a lot of funding support has come from the government. Like there is a CSR Act which has kind of opened, funding for startup through. Of course, there is an act which articulates how startups can be, which entities can support, etc. So actually, when you see these kind of supports happening and corporates looking at it as a strategy to support startup, now it is no longer a byproduct; it's part of their core strategy. So we see this, we see this whole, I would say, golden era. Maybe there would be blips here and there. For some time, at least, investors are heavily investing. Family offices, in fact, if you look at in the investor community, family offices are a big community. Who contribute to various assets. Now, as part of our education, we actually are creating awareness amongst the family office to look at startup as an asset class for investment. So we are actually seeing this opening up everywhere. So we don't. So in terms of the question of saturation, like I told you, it's a big market, and we still have so many issues, which are still there. The last mile, I would say. And interestingly, some of the best brains are working in India. So you look at in any of the labs, you do see some real innovative technologies and disruptive ideas coming out. So I don't think we reach that saturation in the near. We don't see it coming too fast, right? There would be blips, but I think it'll we should overcome it. And challenges, I think, still remains because. Of course, people, if you talk to any startup or if you kind of, read up some of the startup, trends, etc., the top 3 trends which they say is problem solution fit is a challenge, in the sense they see that would be one of the reasons for failures or not taking off. Then the finance is a second option, reason, and the third is team, right? So if you look at any reports or any surveys, so if these 3 things are taken care, I think to a large extent the challenges get mitigated. So so the problem solution fit is the key, and of course finance, I still believe, is not a big challenge, because if you have the right problem solution fit, money start chasing you. Team is again a mindset, which we discussed at length.
So so where does the customer stand? Now, what about you as a consumer or you as a customer? How do you see, the benefit or not the benefit or the otherwise of it?
I think customers here to gain. I mean, today, if we are able to do the podcast, you sitting in one place, maybe I'm sure you're talking to your guests who are across the globe, right? So I think customers here to gain. Yes. Only thing is, the downside is that, our behavior patterns are also so frequently changing. So how do you really keep up to that trend? Suppose you're talking of a real consumer, kind of need. So that's going to be a very challenging factor for these founders to really keep up to, because customers become, I think today, gone are the days where like maybe our parents also still know how to use the mobiles, still manage to do a Google Pay. Of course, there is another set of, India where there is a issue of internet and penetration, but I think slowly we are seeing a lot of, traction happening there. So while the customer is getting educated, internet is no longer going to be a big challenge. The customer has access to information. So customer is going to gain. The challenge is on the other supply side, which is going to be there.
Yeah, because there are two questions that are coming to my mind now. One is that, as they say, human behavior on an overall basis hasn't changed. It's remained the same for many years. That's one side. The other side of it is the sustainability of the products that we as consumers get to see, because there are many which, of course, now that we know the other side, but there are many which you have used just once, twice, and then you're just not able to get it. Yeah, and there are some, and especially on the technology side, because I now, during the process of this podcasting, I'm learning, and, there are some where there is a product, okay, and the product has certain features. But if I want something more, okay, it's not there. The thing is that whoever has made that great product has probably, that's how I understood it, has not really connected with the customer and what the customer wants. So I'm talking about, there are many which I'm currently trying to look at, where I want to have a group of people, maybe members, or, have a subscription model, where they subscribe and I'm able to provide the services on an ongoing basis. Now, when I look at that, it's not even giving me the options that I want. Right. It's a very great platform, but it's not giving me the option. So somewhere I think, yes, it's that newness of things, and there are lots of experimenters, as consumers experiment a lot, right? So we experiment, but somewhere it is stopping, and not really going to the full potential, because maybe the people who have made it have not really understood enough of how it will be used.
Yeah. So I think, this is really the key. So when we talk about customer discovery, so, when founders, innovators really embark into the startup journey, and we tell them, you really need to know whose problem you want to solve, and we really need to know why should the customer buy it from you, what are the options available, the what, why, how, all the possible questions.
Yeah.
Right? So that point of time, they are also kind of introduced to a concept or a process which is called customer insighting or customer discovery. Now, in this process, the founders are required to engage with potential customers. So, because at an ab initio stage, I don't know. I think you could be the customer segment. I think that could be a customer segment. So probably we identify some potential customer segment through some frameworks and BMC formats, etc. Then we necessarily, or we encourage these founders to really engage with these customers, and we say have a customer insighting or discovery, which means you will not speak about your solution. You will engage, conduct a conversation with the customer, and try to find out the life of a customer. Okay, try to find out the life of your customer in terms of, if it is Satinder, right? What's your demographic? What's your profile? What are your likes, dislikes? So I'm not going to come and straight pitch to you in terms of, will you take this product? Will these benefits suit you? No. But I engage with you in such a way that I create a persona around, saying that my customer persona is like this. And then find a space and see that in that persona, if there is a problem, then can I do a problem solution fit? So this is a continuous journey.
Yeah.
Right? So when the founders, as part of their culture, have this as a continuous journey, as part of the process, in terms of knowing what the customer's persona is, what is happening with the customer. Is Satinder going to Cafe Coffee Day last 6 months, but today she shifted to a new restaurant or a new catchment. So it may not be relevant to me today, but it's important because the persona is changing. What does it mean to me? What does it mean to my business? What does it mean to this product and solution I'm trying to, or I have engaged with you? So this is a process which we kind of get these founders to work on continuously. So this challenge which you said, we kind of try to mitigate. So you are informed, and then you have AI technologies, AI/ML technologies to really kind of predict the possible behavior. So a combination of these two probably can, help the startup sustain.
Yeah, sustainability. How I look at it as a service operations person, and when I wear that hat, I think it is got a lot to do with sustainability. Of course, the first portion is getting a product, getting it right. But after that, what exactly does that? Because it is new, and I think this doesn't just apply to startups. It applies to any business, right? Because the customer is changing, needs are changing, and there are multiple variables. It's not just like 1 or 2, 5 things. It's like so many things change. But to keep a watch and to be able to understand and study what's changing, where is the customer getting stuck, why is he not using my product? I think those things are very
So somewhere,
important.
yes. So somewhere as founders, they have to develop this, inciting process. That
it's
skill.
quite hard.
And it is hard. It is hard. And kind of really put it as a culture. Like when I gave this example of this physiotherapy equipment, right? So when I was engaging with the startup founders, and they said, "Ma'am, we really could manage to sell the first 10, 20 equipments," and it was like really exciting statements, and we were so excited. And then after we were discussing, we said, "Hey, but one question, we really need to find out, why did they buy it?"
Yeah.
It's not. So
why did they buy it?
Why did they buy it? Okay, what was that one reason? Okay, one is you sell it to somebody whom you know. That's not what we're talking of. We are talking of if there are a set of 10 people who are completely new to you, you've engaged through that selling process, understanding a customer perspective, etc., and the customer is engaged with you formally. And that's your understanding, right? But somewhere after a couple of months, you really need to understand, are they happy with what they have done, the decision? And why did they buy it? What was that one reason? So we still try to find out, what was that one reason they decided to pick it up?
Yeah.
So it's a continuous process, Satinder. Otherwise it's very, difficult to sustain. Like we said, there are plethora of opportunities, and one slip here and there, you're out, right?
Yeah.
Sustainability, customer orientation, customer centricity is the key for sustainability.
Yeah. So it's been very interesting so far. I think we're just looking at it from another angle. We normally are the consumers, and we're looking at it from another angle. So just if we were to kind of conclude, okay, what are the 2 or 3 messages that you would want to give the startup community? If the listeners as a startup community, what are the 2 or 3 things that you would like to tell them?
Sure. So when you say startup community, it is beyond startup and founders. So the community is much larger.
It's the whole, it's much larger.
Yeah. So I think one thing I really want to, leave a message is, I think we are in the best phase of the startup ecosystem. There is a place for everybody, in the sense who are willing to really help the startup founders through their journey, help them achieve that end purpose. So if you're a retired government employee, or if you're at the stage where you've kind of got sufficient experience, you are you are willing to, like, you want somebody to take that experience, or if you have the right network, you know how the markets work. So there's a place for everybody in this startup ecosystem, right? The only thing is the mindset. I mean, it's very important for people in the startup community to really understand the startup founder mindset. Like I told you, the founders are a bunch of brilliant, intelligent people. They don't need to be told about their technology, and I mean, they know their product inside out. But the transition of, inward to outward, the transition of moving from an innovator, or a problem solver, a product whatever specialist, to an entrepreneur, to a business leader, requires a lot of patience from all of us put together, and get kind of, it's like baby steps. And so there's a golden era for people who want to be in the startup ecosystem. You can get associated through any networks, online, offline. For the founders, critical empathy factor, I think, is something which is very critical, and customer centricity at every stage. I mean, and when I say customer centricity, it is not just customer who kind of consumes the product, end customer. Your employees are your customer, your investors are your customer. So today, if you're really able to, bring in that empathy factor and understand that these stakeholders have objective and they are willing to support me in my cause, in my purpose, as a result of which they get what their objectives are. So you have to really build that bridge and take it as a journey together. I think these are the 2-3 thoughts which come to my mind.
Great. And, there are people like you, who mentor them, who have so much of experience, of all the sides. So I think that's also a very important part of the entire ecosystem.
Yeah. So as mentors also, Satinder, we all collaborate. So no one mentor can do it all.
Yeah.
So we also are a pool of people getting together. So we also collaborate and ensure that if the startup needs this kind of support, and if I'm not able to provide it, I will look through in my network and reach out through my network. I access a lot through the banks also, and they come and so it's a continuous journey of collaboration to see the startup get their dreams achieved.
So I can see that passion with which you're speaking. So you're all right there. And conducive structure is what I call this kind of an arrangement, where everyone is happy and willing to work for each other. So Ganga, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, understanding the insights of a world which is more away from what we as consumers see it, and that all of us have some or the other role to play in this entire ecosystem. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your experience.
Thank you, Satinder. I think it's been one of the most exciting conversations. It was like a memory back lane for me. Thank you very much, and you're most welcome to be part of the system anytime.
Thank you.